Hi everyone, this is Bethany, and for my virtual symposium, I wanted to talk a bit about the biggest impact points for me this semester. And I also want to discuss how my experience in this class culminated in my favorite project of the semester, which was my inspiration report. So, to start out, I want to share a bit about how I landed in this course. In my very first semester of this program, I took information communities with Dr. Stevens, and I was just blown away. It totally changed the way that I thought about information and the information field as a whole. So, since that time, I've had an eye out for other courses with Michael. And when I was able to fit this course into my schedule for my last semester with the iSchool, I thought, this is a great way to sort of bookend my experience of this program. And I wasn't really sure what all the course would cover, to be honest. I wasn't really sure what a hyperlinked library was or how that would fit into my program so far, but I just had a feeling that it was going to be transformative for me in the same way that that first course was 3 years ago at the start of the program. So, right off the bat, a concept that impacted me is the future is emotional. I think it was in our very first lecture, Michael discussed the assigned reading from Livia Gershon, and he quoted from the article, "The key to jobs in the future is not college, but compassion." And both the article and in lecture, we explored this idea that future jobs require literacy around emotional intelligence and emotional labor. And that's obviously not necessarily a new literacy, but it is one that still gets overlooked frequently, and it's essential for our field. And emotional intelligence is not the same as just like plain old soft skills, right? It's a different skill and a different literacy. This was a really powerful way to start the semester, and in every module, I felt that I was able to find a sort of echo of that sentiment. So this is a concept that I'm confident will stick with me far beyond this class. Next, of course, is participatory service. I think I took more notes on this topic than anything else this semester, and I really liked the Henry Jenkins excerpt that Michael shared in lecture, especially this one line that really stood out to me, which describes participation as moving beyond spectatorship. And over the course of the class, I became really interested in this idea of sort of blurring lines between the information consumer versus the information producer. And this is, of course, not new to us, right? It's something we see on social media all the time. We see seemingly normal people who kind of become elevated to the status of influencer. But I'm thinking a lot more about what that could mean for an entire community and an entire library and what those types of services might look like. So, as Michael said really early in the semester, it's not really about what could go wrong. That's a very easy question to ask, but it's more about asking what could go right. It's another gem that I know will stick in my mind for many years to come. And then lastly is the power of stories. I think I actually first heard about the human library from Michael in the first class I took with him 3 years ago. And I've never been able to shake this idea that we are our stories. We are made of stories, and our stories matter. In Wholehearted Librarianship, Michael writes, "Libraries have always been about access to the stories of the world, collected, cataloged, and placed on a shelf, waiting to be discovered." So, logistically, this could mean incorporating narrative inquiry into future research I'm involved in and just considering life outside of the survey. So, it's a new means of gathering and thinking about information. So all of these concepts were kind of floating around and percolating in my brain, and it culminated in my favorite project of the semester, which was my inspiration report and action brief. As I mentioned, I was so moved by our unit on the power of stories, and I wanted to incorporate storytelling into a participatory service and have community members take an active role as opposed to just consuming other people's stories. So, for my inspiration report, I was kind of asking myself a lot of what if questions and pulling from a few different sources of inspiration. And I was thinking, okay, well, I know I want to give community members an opportunity to share their stories in a creative way, preferably anonymously. And in a sort of like exhibit type setting, but I kept thinking a discussion board is not really what I'm going for. That's not quite right. So I started thinking about some of the trends that I've seen in exhibits lately, and immersive exhibits immediately came to mind. So my idea is to create an immersive storytelling experience in the library of my local community college as a participatory service. So I'm envisioning this space and this project, which I'm calling In Your Room, as a collaboration with the college's Visual and Performing Arts department. So it would be a joint effort between both departments to create an immersive space in which stories are actually physically projected onto all four walls of a room. So stories will be gathered anonymously through a Google form, which would be sponsored through the College of the Sequoias Learning Resource Center, which is their library. So here's an excerpt directly from my report, kind of explaining the process. So students and staff are invited to respond to the prompt, "What's your story?" Responses must be 20 words or less. Stories are screened by library staff and given to the In Your Room team. This is a student-led team organized by the College of the Sequoias Library and Visual and Performing Arts Department. So the team integrates the text of stories into moving ambient images, accompanied by similarly ambient music. And then the final display is projected onto the exhibit walls. Community members are invited to visit the space. It's meant to be a quiet, dark, distraction-free zone. So that means no phones, no conversations. It's really about the experience of the room. So to test this out, I asked a group of my friends to volunteer as guinea pigs just to see how would this work, if it was even interesting. And to be honest, I was really quite moved by the results. I was moved by the stories that they shared. I myself am not a graphic designer, and if the library were to actually move forward with this initiative, of course, the visuals would be created by the Visual and Performing Arts Department, as I mentioned previously. But I was able to create a sample of the projection just, to the best of my ability with the tools that I have. And I will share a link to this sample exhibit video in my post below. And if anyone is interested in the logistical issues for this project, definitely feel free to check out my earlier report on my blog. So, to wrap up my virtual symposium, I just want to say thank you to my classmates for a great semester, and also thank you, Michael, for this incredible course. I feel really inspired not only by the course, but by your books and your career as a whole, but especially by your passion for creating hyperlinked spaces that serve a community. So, thank you so much for taking the time to share that with us. Thank you.